I came home early and found my 7-year-old quietly scrubbing the kitchen floor, clearly holding back tears. My in-laws had taken their biological granddaughter, Emma, to an amusement park, but left Chloe behind. It wasn't the first time she'd been treated differently, but this time I decided it would be the last. What I did next? Let's just say, they won't forget it anytime soon. My name's Erin Hayes, I'm 34, and nothing prepares you for coming home to find your child quietly cleaning the house, clearly overwhelmed. My job in marketing often has me traveling, but coming home early that day changed everything. I walked in and saw Chloe, my sweet 7-year-old, clearly upset. Tyler's parents had never truly embraced her, not since the day he and I got married. Instead of including her, they'd taken their biological granddaughter to an amusement park. What happened next would reshape everything I thought I knew about our family. Before I dive in, let me know where you're watching from, drop your location in the comments. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you can hear how I stood up for my daughter when no one else would. I've always been driven when it comes to my career, working my way up the ladder in digital marketing while balancing life as a mom. But make no mistake, Chloe has always been the center of my world, my heart living outside of me. Some days, balancing work and parenting feels nearly impossible, but we've made it work. I met Tyler Morgan 7 years ago at a friend's barbecue. At the time, Chloe was just 3 years old, a curly-haired little girl who instantly charmed everyone, including Tyler. From the very beginning, he was on the floor playing with her, reading stories in all kinds of silly voices and treating her as if she'd always been his. Chloe came into my life under a very difficult situation. My cousin Rachel, who had been like a sister to me growing up, passed away suddenly along with her husband in an unfortunate incident. Chloe was left without anyone. I was just 26 at the time, single and scared, but I knew right away I had to step up. The adoption process was emotional, but so important. Chloe needed stability and love, and I promised to give her both. A year after Tyler and I met, he proposed, but it wasn't just a proposal to me. He got down on one knee with 2 gifts, a ring for me and a delicate heart-shaped necklace for Chloe. He asked both of us if we'd make him the luckiest man and become his family. After the wedding, he went on to legally adopt Chloe as well. On paper and in our hearts, we were truly a family. That's when I was first introduced to Tyler's parents, David and Susan Morgan. At first, they came off as polite, though a little distant. They brought small gifts for Chloe, but their smiles never quite felt genuine when they hugged her. I figured they just needed time to adjust to our blended family. "She's a pretty little one," Susan said once, looking Chloe over. "But she doesn't really resemble either of you, does she?" The comment stung, but Tyler didn't miss a beat. He explained that Chloe was adopted confidently, without any hesitation or excuse, and I appreciated that. Then there was Jason, Tyler's younger brother, and his daughter Emma. Coincidentally, Emma was also 7, born just 2 months after Chloe. In the beginning, the cousins played together easily at family get-togethers, running around while the adults chatted. But over time, I began noticing little things. The grandparents always brought 2 gifts, but Emma's was noticeably fancier or more expensive. They'd take pictures of both girls, but only post the ones with Emma online. When Chloe spoke, Susan sometimes acted like she didn't hear her, but she was all ears when Emma talked. Tyler picked up on it too. One Christmas made it painfully obvious. Emma got a tablet while Chloe received coloring books. Tyler quietly had a word with his parents afterward. "Chloe is my daughter," he told them firmly. "I need you to show her the same care and attention you give to Emma." They brushed it off. "Of course we love both girls," David had said. "Maybe you took it a little personally. Chloe just seems more into arts and crafts." But the pattern didn't change. At Easter, there were always more eggs hidden for Emma. At Thanksgiving, they'd ask Emma about school but ignore Chloe. Individually, these might seem like small things, but together, they built up like tiny cracks in Chloe's sense of belonging. "Why doesn't Grandma Susan ask me to bake cookies with her like she does with Emma?" Chloe asked one day, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't have an answer. To make up for it, I created special traditions for just the 2 of us. Tyler was always there too, supportive and affirming, constantly reminding Chloe her feelings were valid. "They grew up in a different time," he'd say. "They'll come around eventually." I wasn't so sure, but I respected his hope and his belief in his parents. That fragile balance in our family was what made my last business trip so tricky. I had delayed going to the Seattle conference for as long as I could, but my boss made it clear I was needed in person to secure a major client. Tyler reassured me he had everything under control: drop-offs, dance class, homework, the full routine. "We'll be fine, babe," he said, kissing my forehead as I stressed over my packing list. Chloe and I are going to have a daddy-daughter weekend, maybe finally build that birdhouse we talked about. Chloe seemed excited too. She loved having one-on-one time with Tyler. Everything was set. Until it wasn't. 2 days before I was supposed to leave, Tyler got a call from his company's Denver office. A key client was at risk of pulling their business, and as the senior account manager, Tyler needed to fly out immediately. We rushed to figure out who could help with Chloe. Our usual babysitter was away at college. Our backup had already committed to something else. Tyler brought up the idea of having his parents help out. They've been wanting to spend more time with Chloe, he said. Maybe this could be a good opportunity for them to bond. I hesitated, memories of all those little moments of unequal treatment flashing through my mind. I don't know, Tyler, maybe my mom could come from Oregon? She just had knee surgery, remember? He gently reminded me. Look, I know my parents aren't perfect, but they're responsible. It's only 4 days and I'll even be back before you. In the end, I gave in. Not many choices were left on the table, and deep down, I wanted to believe maybe this time would be different. Maybe some time alone with Chloe would help them build a real connection. The morning I left, David and Susan showed up at our place with overnight bags in hand. Everything's under control, Susan said, barely glancing up from her phone. We raised 2 boys. 1 little girl? Piece of cake. I knelt down to meet Chloe's eyes. Be good for Grandma and Grandpa, okay? I'll call every night and Daddy will be back in just 4 days. She nodded, trying to look brave, though I could tell she was unsure. I'll be okay, Mommy. I'll help out and do chores too. You don't have to worry about chores, sweetheart, I told her, hugging her close. Just have fun and enjoy yourself. I love you more than all the stars, I whispered. Love you to the moon and back, she replied, our usual goodbye. My trip in Seattle was packed with meetings, but I still carved out time to video call Chloe every night. On the first night, she looked alright, just a bit quieter than usual. She told me they had spaghetti for dinner and watched a movie afterward. Are you having fun with Grandma and Grandpa? I asked. It's okay, she replied with a shrug. Grandma made me pick up my toys twice. She said I was messy. That made me pause. Chloe was actually pretty neat for her age. Well, just remember it's their house, their rules. Only 2 more days, sweetheart. The second night's call was shorter. David answered instead, saying Chloe was finishing dinner and would call me back soon. But that call never came. Later that evening, I tried again. This time Susan picked up, her voice slightly impatient. She's already asleep, completely worn out from playing all day. She'll call you tomorrow. Something didn't sit right, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what was bothering me. Tyler called that same evening to let me know his Denver meetings were dragging out longer than expected. My parents said they're okay staying 1 more day, he said. I should be back the day after tomorrow, and you'll be home the day after that. But then something unexpected happened. The client we'd been meeting with made an early decision to move forward, canceling the last 2 days of presentations. Suddenly, I had a chance to head home early. You sure you don't want to stay and see the city? My coworker asked. Seattle's beautiful this time of year. But all I could think about was getting back to Chloe. Those awkward, brief calls with Tyler's parents had left me uneasy. I booked the next available flight. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I figured I'd surprise Chloe and let Tyler's parents head home a little early. It felt like a win for everyone. But the closer I got to home, the more uneasy I became. I brushed it off as travel fatigue, maybe a bit of guilt for being away so long. I couldn't wait to see Chloe's reaction. Maybe she'd run up and hug me, excited to share everything I'd missed. But as I turned into our neighborhood, something felt off. David and Susan's car wasn't in the driveway. It was a Thursday afternoon. Where could they have taken Chloe? Maybe to the park? Ice cream? Still, a strange feeling settled in my chest. I pulled into the driveway and stepped out, the spring air cool around me. Dragging my suitcase behind me, I walked up to the door. The house felt oddly still. Hello? Chloe? Anyone home? I called, placing my bags by the door. No answer. A chill ran through me. I moved through the house, calling for Chloe more urgently. The living room was empty, but on the floor I noticed something that stopped me in my tracks. Sir Bun Bun, Chloe's favorite stuffed rabbit, was lying on the rug. She never left him behind, not unless something was wrong. The dining table still had crumbs on it, along with a half-empty glass of water. Chloe. I called again, my voice echoing through the quiet. Then I heard something faint, a soft sniffle followed by a gentle scrubbing sound. I rushed toward the kitchen, my heart was racing. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw. Chloe was on the tile floor, scrubbing with a large brush. Her little hands were red, her face streaked with old tears, her curls damp with sweat. Next to her was a bucket of soapy water. She was still wearing the same clothes I'd seen in our video call the night before. She didn't notice me at first, she was too focused on scrubbing a single spot on the floor. I stood there frozen, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. "Chloe," I finally said, my voice barely audible. She jumped, the brush slipping from her hand as she turned to look at me. For just a moment there was fear in her eyes, a look I'd never seen directed at me. Then slowly recognition dawned. "Mommy." Her voice was quiet, unsure, as if she couldn't believe it was really me. I rushed to her side, not even caring that my business slacks were soaking up water from the floor. "What are you doing, sweetheart? Where are Grandma and Grandpa?" Her lip quivered as fresh tears gathered in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Mommy," she whispered. "I spilled grape juice this morning, and I made a big mess. Grandma said I need to learn responsibility," Chloe told me quietly, "so I have to clean the whole kitchen before they get back." I felt a chill go down my spine. "The entire floor?" I asked gently. "Where did they go?" Chloe lowered her head, her tiny shoulders slumping. "They took Emma to Adventure World," she said softly. "You know, the amusement park with the big roller coasters." My breath caught. They had left her behind alone. I tried to keep my tone calm even as emotions surged inside me. "They didn't take you?" Chloe shook her head. "Grandma said I wouldn't enjoy it like Emma would. She said Emma gets special things because she's their real granddaughter." Her voice couldn't finish without emotion, and it felt like something shifted inside me. I pulled her into a hug. She was slightly trembling as I held her. "How long have you been by yourself, sweetheart?" I whispered. "Since after breakfast," she murmured against my shoulder. "Grandma said they'd be back for dinner, and that I better have the floor perfectly clean or I wouldn't get dessert. She also said I need to think about why I'm always so clumsy." 5 hours. They'd been gone for 5 hours, and my 7-year-old had been on her hands and knees scrubbing the floor the entire time, just because she wasn't Emma. I felt uneasy. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Chloe, have they left you alone like this before?" She hesitated, then slowly nodded. "Yesterday they went shopping with Emma. They told me I couldn't come because I complained too much about being bored. They were gone a long time." I got scared. I shut my eyes for a moment, trying to hold back the wave of mixed emotions rising inside me. "Chloe, is there anything else? Anything that happened while I was gone? You can tell me anything, I won't be upset with you." She began to open up, piece by piece. How Emma got new toys while she was made to watch. How Chloe was asked to help with chores, doing dishes, dusting, tidying up, while Emma got to play. How Susan kept saying things that made Chloe feel like an outsider. "We gave her a chance to be part of something special," she said, her voice strangely calm, as if she'd accepted it as fact. She said I should be thankful because not all kids get second chances. Those words felt like tiny blades to my heart. I pulled her close and gently rocked her. "Chloe Grace Hayes Morgan," I said, my voice firm but full of love, "you are not lucky that we brought you into our lives. We are the lucky ones. Every single day, I'm grateful I get to be your mom. You are the brightest part of my life, and I am so sorry you were treated this way." "You're not mad at me for spilling the juice?" she asked in a tiny voice. "Of course not," I said, brushing her damp hair away from her forehead. "Accidents happen to everyone. No one should ever make you scrub a whole floor for that. And they absolutely should not have left you here alone." I gently helped her to her feet. Only then did I really notice how tired she looked. Her knees were red and irritated from kneeling on the tile, and her little hands were wrinkled and rough from the cleaning water. "Let's get you cleaned up first," I said, leading her to the bathroom, "and then we're going out for ice cream." As I washed her hands and face, my mind was racing, filled with tension, plans, and the quiet promise that this would never happen again. "Am I in trouble with Grandma when they get back?" she asked as I rubbed lotion into her sore hands. "No, baby," I said firmly. "You're not in trouble with anyone. But Grandma and Grandpa? They are definitely in trouble with me." Her eyes widened. "Are you going to yell at them?" I paused and took a breath. "No," I said calmly. "I'm not going to yell. But I'm going to make sure they understand this can never happen again. I won't let anyone speak to my daughter that way again. No one." Once she was cleaned up, I took her downtown to her favorite ice cream shop. As she dug into her rainbow sherbet cone, I watched her carefully. In the rush of everything earlier, I hadn't noticed how different she looked. She seemed thinner, like she hadn't eaten well. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. And her usual energy was gone. She kept sneaking glances at me, like she needed constant reassurance I was really there. Chloe, I said gently, I need you to tell me everything that happened while I was away. Not just today, everything, even if you think it'll upset me. I need to know. Slowly, between bites of ice cream, she began to share more. The first day hadn't been too bad, just tense. But by the second day, the difference in treatment became obvious. Emma was allowed to watch TV while Chloe had to sit quietly and read. When they both got excited and loud during a game, only Chloe was told she was out of control. Grandma said Emma acts like a proper young lady, Chloe told me. Because she has good breeding. She looked puzzled. What does breeding mean, Mommy? Like dogs. I had to swallow hard before responding. It's an outdated and unkind way some people talk about families, I explained. And Grandma never should have said that. Then she told me about meals, how she'd been given basic food while Emma got her favorite snacks. When Chloe asked if she could have the same chicken nuggets, Susan said, "Those are for Emma. You can have a sandwich." And that trip to the amusement park? It wasn't the only time she'd been left behind. The day before, they took Emma to a movie and told Chloe she had to stay home to think about her behavior. What behavior? I asked, keeping my voice as calm as I could. Chloe gave a small shrug. Grandma said I was being disrespectful because I asked if I could have dessert like Emma. But Emma got ice cream and I didn't get anything. Was it bad that I asked? No, sweetheart, I said gently. That wasn't bad at all. By the time we'd finished our ice cream, I had already made up my mind. This wasn't just a misstep or a one-off lapse in judgment. It was a consistent pattern and it had deeply affected my daughter. And I was done letting it slide. On the drive home, I tried calling Tyler again, but it went straight to voicemail. I quickly sent him a message instead, "Call me ASAP. Something important had occurred with your parents and Chloe." Back at the house, I ran a warm bubble bath for Chloe, something that always brought her comfort, and let her play while I paced the hallway with my phone clutched tightly in hand. When Tyler finally returned my call, I could hear the worry in his voice. What's going on? Is Chloe okay? I stepped into our bedroom and quietly closed the door before letting it all pour out. I told him everything, how I found her alone, what she was doing, the amusement park, all of it. At first, he couldn't quite believe it. But that disbelief quickly turned into stunned silence and then tension. They left her home by herself for hours? His voice rose with every word. And they said that stuff to her about not being real family? Yes, I said quietly, making sure Chloe couldn't overhear. Tyler, this goes way beyond favoritism. Leaving her alone like that, it's not just hurtful. It's irresponsible behavior. And honestly, maybe even something more serious. There was a long pause on his end. I'm coming home, he said at last. I'll get on the next available flight. But what about your client? I asked. I don't care about the client, he said, with a kind of fire I rarely heard from him. My daughter comes first. Always. The way he said it, my daughter, not your daughter, or stepdaughter, hit me right in the heart. Even with everything happening, that moment warmed something inside me. Tyler, I said carefully, we need to think through how we're going to handle this before they show up again. They're due back by dinner and I'm not letting them walk in here like everything's fine. I want them out, he said without hesitation. And I don't ever want them alone with Chloe again. I feel the same way, I replied, relieved we were completely aligned. But we need to be thoughtful. I don't want Chloe or Emma to witness anything uncomfortable or heated. We talked through it and came up with a plan. Tyler would catch the earliest flight back, and in the meantime, I'd handle things at home. His parents would be asked, calmly but firmly, to pack up and leave. Whether it was a hotel or their own house, they would not be staying with us. And from that point forward, they'd no longer have unsupervised time with Chloe. They're going to push back, Tyler warned. They'll say we're overreacting. That it's not a big deal. That kids need structure or whatever. They can say whatever they want, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. They left our daughter alone for hours and made her feel like she didn't matter. There's no justification for that. After we hung up, I went to check on Chloe. She was still in the bath, playing with her toys, a little more at ease. I sat beside the tub and helped her rinse her hair, and that's when I noticed a faint red spot on her shoulder. How'd you get this, sweetie? I asked, keeping my tone casual. Oh, she said, glancing at it briefly. Grandma grabbed my arm quickly. It surprised me a little yesterday when I dropped a plate. It was an accident. I was being clumsy. I took a steady breath, reminding myself to stay calm. That's not clumsy, honey, I told her gently. That's just being a normal kid. And grown-ups should never grab you so hard that there was a tiny spot afterward. Not ever. After her bath, I helped her into her favorite pajamas. It was still early, but comfort mattered more than keeping to the usual schedule. We curled up on the couch, watching one of her favorite movies. During a quiet moment, I explained what was going to happen, but in words she could understand. Grandma and Grandpa made some choices that weren't okay, I said softly. Because of that, they can't stay here anymore. And they won't be in charge of taking care of you again. Chloe looked up at me, her eyes wide. Did they cross a line? Yes, I answered honestly. We'll have to talk about what comes next. What they did wasn't right. And sometimes when people make hurtful choices, there are consequences. Will I still see Emma? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. My heart ached. Despite everything, she was worried about losing her cousin. Of course you will, I reassured her. Emma didn't do anything wrong. And neither did you. This is about how the adults acted, not you kids. The afternoon crawled by, and I checked the clock more often than usual. It was almost 6 p.m., around the time we usually had dinner. Any moment now they'd be pulling into the driveway. I asked Chloe to play in her room for a bit, promising I'd call her down later. Are you sure you're not mad at me, Mommy? She asked as I tucked Sir Bun into her arms. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, I told her, kissing her forehead. I love you more than you can imagine. As I gently closed her door, I heard a car pull up outside. I squared my shoulders and walked downstairs, ready for whatever was about to happen. Because one thing was absolutely clear, no one, no matter who they were, would ever make my daughter feel unwelcome in her own home again. The front door opened with a burst of laughter. Susan came in first, arms full of shopping bags stamped with the Adventure World logo. David followed behind her, carrying a sleepy-looking Emma on his shoulders. None of them noticed me standing by the stairs until I cleared my throat. Susan jumped slightly, clutching her chest. Aaron! Goodness, you startled me. What are you doing back already? Where's Chloe? David asked, glancing around as he lowered Emma to the floor. She's upstairs, I said evenly. She's resting after spending 5 hours scrubbing the kitchen floor. Alone. While you were out. Susan's expression shifted for a moment. Was it guilt? Or just annoyance at being caught? Then she rolled her eyes slightly. Oh, don't be so dramatic. She made a mess and needed to clean it up. It's called learning responsibility. Responsibility? I repeated, my voice calm but cold. You think abandoning a 7-year-old for hours so you could go to an amusement park is teaching responsibility? David stepped in, setting the bags down. Now, Aaron, it wasn't like that, he said. Chloe was having a rough morning. She threw a tantrum over some juice. We thought she needed time to settle down. A tantrum? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. She told me she spilled juice and said sorry right away. Well, of course she'd say that, Susan muttered as she took off her jacket. I've noticed she tends to twist the truth when it suits her. Not like our Emma. The offhand cruelty in that comment made my stomach turn, but I stayed composed. Regardless of what happened with the juice, you left an 7-year-old completely alone, I said firmly. In many places, people would be very concerned about something like this. It's not something to overlook. That finally seemed to get their attention. David paled, and Susan's eyes narrowed sharply. You wouldn't dare, she snapped. We were gone for just a few hours, and Chloe is totally fine. Let's not make this a bigger issue. I'm not being dramatic, I replied, keeping my tone even. I'm being a mother. A mother who came home to find her child scared and scrubbing a kitchen floor on her hands and knees after being told she wasn't really part of this family. David at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. We never said anything like that. Really? I said, my voice tightening. Because Chloe told me that you've both said, more than once, that she came into the family differently. That she should be grateful we took her in because no one else wanted her. Susan rolled her eyes. Kids exaggerate. And anyway, it's just a fact she's not related by blood. We've never hidden that. She's 7. I said, my voice rising despite myself. And yes, she is related. She's your son's daughter. Tyler adopted her legally. She shares your last name. What more do you want? David stepped in again, clearly trying to ease the tension. Look, we may have made some mistakes today, but you're blowing this out of proportion. We've looked after Chloe all week without any problems. No problems? I repeated, half laughing in disbelief. She told me everything. About being left out of family outings. About being given chores while Emma got to play. About Emma getting better food, new toys, more attention. She told me she was held too firmly. That she was told she whines too much. That you left her home alone yesterday too. This wasn't a slip-up, I added. This was a pattern. Just then my phone rang. It was Tyler. I answered immediately and switched it to speaker mode. Tyler, Susan said, her tone suddenly sickly sweet. Your wife is making some wild claims. We've taken excellent care of Chloe, but she's a difficult child. She needed a little discipline today. You left her alone for hours, Tyler's voice came through, tight and controlled, while you took Emma to Adventure World? She had to learn a lesson, David cut in. And Emma needed a special day. What's so wrong about that? What's wrong, Tyler replied slowly, is that you left her alone without supervision. She often felt a little out of place at home, as if she wasn't fully included in the family. Oh, maybe she took it a little personally, Susan scoffed. Just like her mother. Honestly, Tyler, I don't know what you expected. We've just always had a closer bond with Emma. We've known her since birth. The silence that followed was immediate and chilling. Even Susan seemed to realize she'd crossed a line. What did you just say? Tyler asked, his voice low and deliberate. I just meant, Susan began, but he cut her off. I heard you, he said. And it's unacceptable. Chloe is my daughter. Not my stepdaughter. Not my adopted daughter. My daughter. And if you can't treat her the same way you treat Emma, with the same love and respect, then you don't belong in her life. Susan's expression twisted with offense. I can't believe you're saying this after all we've done, she snapped. We're your parents. And I'm Chloe's parent, Tyler replied, unwavering. And it's my job to protect her, even if that means protecting her from you. I stepped back in, my voice calm but firm. Here's what's going to happen. We need to take some space starting tonight. You can get a hotel or head home, I don't care which, but you're not staying here. And from this point forward you won't have unsupervised access to Chloe again. This is ridiculous, Susan fumed. David, say something. David looked torn. His eyes shifted between his wife and the phone. Son, maybe we should all just take a breath and talk this through. We made a mistake today, yes, but cutting us off seems extreme. It's not just about today, I told him. It's every offhand comment. Every comparison. Every time you made Chloe feel like she wasn't enough. She believes she deserves to be treated like she matters less than Emma, just because she doesn't share your blood, I said, my voice trembling now. And that stops today. Tyler's voice came through the speaker again. I'm boarding a flight in an hour. And by the time I get home, I expect you to be gone. We'll talk about possible supervised visits only after Chloe's had time to heal. Emma, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. Is Chloe okay? Can I see her? Her quiet concern made the whole situation feel even heavier. Even a child could sense something wasn't right. I knelt beside her. She's okay, sweetie. She's just resting right now. This isn't your fault, Emma. You didn't do anything wrong. Susan seized on the moment. See what you're doing, she cried. You're tearing the cousins apart. You're ruining this family. No, I said, rising to my feet again. You did that when you decided that one grandchild mattered more than the other. This is absurd, Susan snapped, snatching her purse. Come on, David, we don't need to stand here and be insulted. Where's Chloe? David asked again, looking genuinely concerned. Can we at least say goodbye? I shook my head gently. Not tonight. She's been through more than enough. She'll call you when she's ready. Susan let out a dramatic sigh. Fine. But don't think this is over. We'll be speaking to Tyler privately without your interference. You're welcome to try, I said coolly. But he heard every word you said tonight, and he stands with me. And with Chloe. As they began to gather their things, Susan turned to me one last time. You know, Aaron, Susan said, pausing dramatically, we always believed Tyler could have done better. Now we're sure of it. The words were meant to sting, but I just smiled. That's funny, I replied calmly. I was thinking the exact same thing about Chloe's grandparents. They stormed out moments later, slamming the front door and peeling out of the driveway with a bewildered Emma in tow. As the sound of the car faded, I leaned back against the wall, feeling completely drained. The confrontation had gone about as well as I could have hoped, but I knew this was just the beginning of a much longer, more painful chapter in our family's story. I headed upstairs and found Chloe sitting quietly on her bed, clutching Sir Bunbun. She had clearly heard at least some of what had unfolded. Did Grandma and Grandpa leave because of me? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. I sat down next to her and wrapped my arms around her. No, sweetheart, I said softly. They left because of their own choices. None of this is your fault. Will they come back? She asked. I chose my words with care. They won't be staying here again, I told her gently. But if someday they learn how to treat everyone in our family with kindness and respect, we might let them visit for short stays. Chloe nodded slowly, seeming to accept that. Is Daddy coming home? She asked. Yes, I smiled. They'll be here in just a few hours. He's so excited to see you. Later that night, as Chloe drifted off to sleep still holding Sir Bunbun, I sat beside her bed and watched the tension finally leave her little face. I had promised to protect her, and today, I kept that promise. I knew there would be more difficult moments ahead. Tough conversations. Family pressure. More decisions to make. But seeing Chloe rest peacefully without fear or uncertainty reassured me I'd done the right thing. Some family ties, I realized, aren't worth preserving if they hurt the ones we love. Tyler arrived just after midnight. He looked worn out from travel but was buzzing with adrenaline. When he walked through the door, I immediately wrapped my arms around him and let the tears come, finally letting go now that Chloe was asleep and I didn't need to be strong for her. I can't believe they did this, Tyler whispered, his voice tight with emotion. My own parents, how could they treat her that way? We sat down at the kitchen table, the same floor our daughter had been forced to scrub just days before. I told him everything, leaving nothing out. Chloe's words. The state I found her in. The unkind things she'd heard. Everything. Tyler listened, and as I spoke, his expression darkened with disbelief and pain. I always knew they favored Emma, he said, running a hand through his hair. But I never thought they'd take it this far. Leaving her alone? Making her feel like she doesn't belong? That's... He trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Have they reached out to you? I asked. He nodded grimly. They've called several times. I just sent a message saying I'd talk to them tomorrow. I couldn't deal with it tonight. The next morning, Chloe woke up to find Tyler at home and flew into his arms with a joyful squeal. It was the first glimpse of her old energy I'd seen in days, and it made my heart swell. Over breakfast, we sat down together for a family talk. We kept things age-appropriate but honest. Grandma and Grandpa made some hurtful choices, Tyler explained gently, holding her small hand in his. And when grown-ups make choices that hurt kids, there have to be consequences. Like when I get a timeout? Chloe asked. Kind of, I said. Except their timeout is going to last much longer. And they won't be allowed to spend time with you unless another grown-up we trust is there too. Chloe thought about that. Are they mad at me? She asked quietly. No, sweetie, Tyler said, squeezing her hand. They're probably upset about what happened, but none of this is your fault. Not even a little. I need you to believe that, I added gently. Nothing you did caused this. She nodded, though I could still see a flicker of uncertainty behind her eyes. We both agreed that family therapy would be a necessary step moving forward, so Chloe could process what happened, and so we could be the best possible support for her. Later that afternoon, while she was happily distracted with a movie, Tyler made the call to his parents. I sat beside him as he put the phone on speaker. We've been so worried, Susan said the moment she picked up. After the way you and Aaron threw us out. Mom, Tyler said, cutting her off. I'm calling to make things clear. What you and Dad did, it crossed the line. You left Chloe alone for hours. Sometimes it seemed like her feelings weren't fully considered than Emma. You made her feel unwelcome in her own home. That's not fair, David chimed in. We admitted we made a mistake leaving her alone. But calling it mistreatment feels like too strong a word. Is it? Tyler asked sharply. You told my daughter she wasn't really part of the family. Do you understand what that does to a child? We were just being honest, Susan replied defensively. She's old enough to know the difference between biological and adopted family. There is no difference, Tyler snapped, his calm finally breaking. Not in how much she's loved. Not in how committed we are. Not in how she should be treated. Chloe is my daughter in every way. From that point on, the call went downhill. Susan and David deflected, minimized, and insisted we were overreacting. They even hinted they'd involve extended family if we didn't reconsider. Tyler calmly ended the call with a final statement. There will be no unsupervised visits. Any future time with Chloe will be limited and supervised, and only if she's ready. And sure enough, they followed through on their threat. Within days, the calls started coming in. Tyler's aunts, uncles, cousins all reaching out, most of them parroting a softened version of events passed down from Susan and David. They just wanted Emma to have a special day, one of Tyler's aunts insisted. Chloe can be difficult, added an uncle who, as far as I knew, had never even met her. The pressure from extended family was intense, but Tyler and I didn't waver. Thankfully, not everyone bought into the story being spread. Tyler's younger brother, Jason, seemed skeptical from the start. A week after everything happened, Jason called. Emma's been upset, he said. She keeps asking about Chloe and why everyone's so upset. What actually happened, Tyler? Tyler didn't hold back. He told him everything, plainly and truthfully. There was a long silence on the other end. Wow, Jason finally said. Mom left her alone for hours? And said she wasn't real family. Yes, Tyler confirmed. And there's more we haven't even shared. Another pause, then Jason quietly said, I believe you. Emma mentioned something about Chloe having to clean while she just played. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now? I'm really sorry. Is Chloe okay? That conversation changed everything. Jason became an unexpected ally, speaking up, correcting the misinformation being spread around the family and making sure the truth was heard. He also made a point to keep the cousins connected. He arranged regular video calls between Emma and Chloe, helping preserve their bond even with everything going on between the adults. Meanwhile, Tyler and I focused on helping Chloe heal. We found a therapist, Dr. Naomi Bennett, who specialized in adoption and blended families. She had a calm, reassuring presence that helped Chloe open up in ways we hadn't seen before. During one session, Dr. Bennett asked gently, Chloe, how did it make you feel when your grandma said you weren't really part of the family? Chloe hugged Sir Bun tighter and said softly, sad and scared. Like maybe Daddy would stop loving me too, someday. Tyler's eyes welled up instantly. Never, he said, his voice firm and full of emotion. Never, not ever. Over the following weeks, we discovered that the incident we'd walked into was just the most extreme example. There have been many smaller ones. Little remarks, exclusions, differences in treatment, all of which had quietly added up over the years. And Chloe, like many kids, had absorbed it all, believing she must somehow deserve it. Children adjust to their surroundings, Dr. Bennett told us during a parents-only session. When they're treated differently, they don't usually blame the adults. They blame themselves. They think they did something wrong or that they simply aren't enough. The first time we all had to be in the same space again was Chloe's spring concert at school. Emma was performing too, so we knew Tyler's parents would be there. We prepared Chloe carefully, reassuring her that we'd stay with her the entire time. What if Grandma tries to talk to me by herself? She asked nervously while getting dressed. She won't, I promised. Daddy, or I will be with you the whole time. And if anyone says something that makes you uncomfortable, you tell us right away. When we arrived, the air in the auditorium was tense. Susan and David stood near Jason and his wife, with Emma in her concert outfit between them. They noticed us almost immediately. Susan's face stiffened while David looked away. We walked Chloe to her classroom, choosing a route that avoided passing them directly. Once she was settled with her teacher, we found seats on the opposite side of the room. Jason made a point of approaching us anyway. How's Chloe doing? He asked quietly. Better, Tyler said. The therapy's helping. How's Emma holding up? I asked. She's confused, but all right, Jason replied. She misses Chloe. He hesitated for a moment, then added, Mom and Dad, well, you know. But I just want you to know I get it. I would have done the same thing for Emma. That simple sentence meant more than he knew. After the concert, avoiding the in-laws became impossible. They approached while we waited outside Chloe's classroom. She did a lovely job, David offered awkwardly. Yes, she did, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. Susan stayed silent, her eyes fixed on Chloe with a strange expression. When Chloe finally came out, she clung to my side, her confidence fading fast. Hello, Chloe, David said, crouching slightly. You were wonderful tonight. Thank you, she whispered, not meeting his gaze. Well, Susan said suddenly, her voice clipped, I suppose congratulations are in order. You've done a fine job turning our granddaughter against us. Mom, Tyler said quietly. Not here. Not now. Then when? She snapped. You've cut us off over one mistake. It wasn't just one mistake, I said, calm but clear. And this isn't the time or place. We left shortly afterward. On the ride home, I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw Chloe staring out the window. You okay, honey? I asked gently. She nodded slowly. Grandma still looks mad at me. She's not angry with you, Tyler said, meeting her eyes through the mirror. She's upset about the situation and about adult things you don't need to worry about. As the weeks turned into months, we kept our boundaries in place. We allowed short, supervised interactions, a dinner out, a visit to the park, always with both of us present. These outings were often tense. Susan in particular struggled with the new arrangement. This is ridiculous, she said during one meetup. I can't even talk to Chloe without you two hovering. That's right, I answered calmly. These are our rules. You can respect them, or choose not to see Chloe at all. It's up to you. David, to his credit, seemed to be trying. He brought thoughtful gifts, asked about her interests, and avoided comparing her to Emma. Whether that came from genuine growth or simply better behavior under watch, we couldn't say. But it was a step. What surprised us most was the deepening bond between Chloe and Emma. Without the shadow of favoritism, the girls were actually growing closer. Their video calls, supervised playdates, and shared laughs became regular and genuinely joyful. One afternoon, about 4 months after it all began, Chloe came to me with a hopeful look. "Can I sleep over at Emma's house sometime?" she asked. "Not right now," I said gently. "But maybe in the future if things keep getting better." "Because of what Grandma and Grandpa did?" she asked. "Yes," I said honestly. "Our job is to make sure you're always safe and treated with respect. That comes first." She thought about that for a moment, then said something that told me just how far she'd come. "It wasn't because I'm not a real Morgan, was it?" Chloe asked one evening. "It was because they were being unkind?" "Exactly," Tyler said gently, pride shining through his words. "And being a Morgan has nothing to do with DNA. It's about love, respect, and treating people with care." About 6 months after that painful day, therapy sessions revealed even more moments of subtle favoritism and emotional pressure than we'd initially realized. At the time, some of those incidents had seemed small, but when seen together, they painted a clear picture, a pattern that had made Chloe feel like she wasn't enough. The good news, Dr. Bennett told us one day, is that Chloe is still young and incredibly resilient. With continued love and support, she'll not only recover, she'll thrive. She explained that the work we were doing as parents was helping reshape the way Chloe viewed herself, reinforcing that she was deeply loved and fully valued. Tyler and I poured ourselves into that healing process. We created new traditions that celebrated our unique story as a family. We read books about adoption together, had open conversations about different kinds of families, and made sure Chloe knew that her beginning was rooted in love, not in loss. Slowly, we began to see our little girl come back to life. Her eyes lit up more often. Her laughter returned. She no longer needed constant reassurance to feel safe and loved. She was healing, and so were we. Half a year after everything changed, our family had found a new rhythm. Chloe was thriving in therapy. Tyler and I had grown stronger as a team. And the relationship with his parents, while still cautious, had shifted into something more manageable. The most surprising turning point came during a supervised lunch at the Olive Grove Cafe. Chloe had stepped away with me to use the restroom, and Tyler had taken a quick call, briefly leaving his parents alone at the table. When we returned, Susan was unusually quiet. She pushed her food around her plate before finally turning to Chloe. "I owe you an apology," she said softly, her voice trembling. "What I did and what we did was wrong. I should never have left you by yourself. And I should never have said those unkind things about you not being part of the family." Chloe blinked, clearly caught off guard by the sudden apology. "It's okay," she said reflexively, the way children often do when they've been conditioned to smooth over adult emotions. But David gently shook his head. "No, it's not okay," he said. "Your grandmother is right. We treated you unfairly. And we are truly sorry." I watched Chloe closely, ready to step in if she became overwhelmed, but instead, she quietly asked, "Why did you do it?" The kind of brave, honest question only a child could ask. Susan looked shaken, glancing at David before answering. "I think I was holding on to old ideas," she said slowly. "I used to believe family was only about blood. But I was wrong. Family is about love. And your dad loves you more than anything. That makes you just as much a Morgan as anyone else." It wasn't a perfect apology. It didn't touch on the years of subtle favoritism or the emotional distance. But it was something, and I could see that to Chloe it mattered. "Does this mean we can be friends now?" she asked cautiously. Tears filled Susan's eyes. "I would like that very much." That moment marked a quiet shift in our family's story. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time, there was the possibility of change. At Dr. Bennett's suggestion, Susan began individual therapy to work through the long-held beliefs that had shaped her actions. David, once more passive, started taking initiative, getting to know Chloe as her own person instead of constantly comparing her to Emma. Meanwhile, Chloe and Emma's bond grew stronger. Now free from the shadow of favoritism, they connected in a way that was genuine and joyful. Emma, understanding more about the past, even became Chloe's quiet advocate. "Grandma, you have to ask Chloe what she wants too, not just me," she'd remind Susan if she started slipping into old habits. Those reminders coming from Emma often had more impact than anything Tyler or I could say. Tyler's relationship with his parents also changed. The unshakable trust of childhood was gone, replaced by careful observation. But as his parents continued showing up and putting in effort, Tyler slowly allowed room for hope. "I never thought I'd be parenting my own parents," he told me one night. "But in a way, that's exactly what this is, showing them how to treat our child." "You're breaking a cycle," I said, taking his hand. "They probably learned these beliefs from their own parents. But by standing up now, you're making sure Chloe doesn't carry that forward." Even Tyler's extended family, who had initially rushed to defend Susan and David, began to shift their perspective. Jason and his wife became our biggest supporters, often helping bridge the gap between both sides. "Mom told me she doesn't even understand why she acted that way," Jason said to Tyler over lunch one afternoon. "She said it wasn't something she consciously decided, she just always favored Emma without thinking. But I really think she's trying to understand it now." Our focus during this entire journey remained on Chloe. We knew the impact of those early years wouldn't disappear overnight, but we also saw firsthand how healing happens with consistency, love, and a safe space to be heard. One day in therapy, Chloe looked at us with a mix of clarity and vulnerability. "I used to think there was something wrong with me," she said. "Like, maybe I wasn't good enough to be a real Morgan. But now I know that's not true," Chloe said softly. "I am a real Morgan, and a real Hayes too. I have two families who love me." Her words brought tears to my eyes. After everything she had endured, my daughter had come out stronger, wiser, and more sure of who she was. By the time we reached the 1-year mark since that day, our family had settled into a healthier rhythm. Susan and David were allowed supervised visits again, short at first, but gradually extended as they showed they could consistently respect the boundaries we had put in place. Chloe felt more at ease around them now, though she was still more guarded than she was with others. "The goal isn't to erase what happened," Dr. Bennett reminded us during a family session that included both grandparents. "It's to grow from it, to take responsibility and build something stronger moving forward." Susan nodded, and for once, her usual defensiveness was nowhere to be found. "I never want Chloe to feel like she's not wanted, or that she's anything less than family," she said. "I'm still learning, but I'm trying. And I mean it." For the first time, I believed her. We celebrated Chloe's 9th birthday with a party surrounded by both sides of the family. As she blew out her candles, surrounded by people who truly valued her, I found myself reflecting on the long, difficult road that had brought us here. The image of Chloe alone scrubbing the kitchen floor haunted me. It had been one of the most painful moments of my life. But what followed, the boundaries we enforced, the therapy we embraced, the honesty we chose, had transformed us. We came out of that storm with something deeper than before. Chloe no longer wondered if she belonged. She knew without a doubt that she was loved, safe, and worth standing up for. No child should have to learn that lesson through hardship, but knowing it, that knowledge is priceless. As I watched her laughing with Emma, accepting a thoughtful gift from Susan, and smiling for Tyler's camera, I felt it deep in my chest we had made the right choice. We stood our ground. We defended our daughter when she couldn't defend herself. And through it all, we showed her the one truth that mattered most. That family isn't just about DNA. It's about love. It's about choice. And it's about standing with someone no matter what. If you're listening to this and you've ever felt like you had to stay silent to keep the peace, especially when it comes to protecting your child, I hope our story gives you strength. Setting boundaries might be hard. It might stir conflict. It might even break what you thought were unshakable ties. But it's always, always worth it. Have you ever had to make a tough call with family to protect your kids? I'd love to hear your story. Share it in the comments below. And if this story spoke to you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories about family, motherhood, and the sometimes messy path to doing what's right. Thanks for listening. And remember, blood doesn't make a family. Love does.